Well, you may be wondering, why no funny intro this time? And the simple response to that is funny intros are for winners, and that is not what the Golden Knights are in this case, as the Golden Knights lose 5-2 to the doormat of the Pacific Division known as the San Jose Sharks. Now, the Golden Knights coming off of a frustrating and hard-fought loss to the St. Louis Blues a couple of days before this, are looking to rebound in a big way. And honestly, the Sharks seemed like the best palate cleanser to come back to get the team headed in the right direction. Golden Knights historically have owned the Sharks, especially in T-Mobile Arena, essentially having a near perfect record against the Sharks in regulation in the regular season. That being said, I guess something has to give, and the Golden Knights sure as heck gave this time. Lineup was basically the exact same as the St. Louis game. Thompson versus Reimer is the net battle, and the Golden Knights got off to a really good start. Started off with a really good passing play with the Misfits that gave us an early chance, but ultimately the pass from Marchessault to Carlson cutting the back door was intercepted, so it wasn't even a shot on goal. Dominating the early puck possession for the first good 8 minutes of the game. It was not even close. Then the third line had a really glorious scoring chance where Howden hit the near post on a scramble about 10 minutes into the period. And the Golden Knights were just the better team, even though everything else with regards to the game was pretty even, which is mildly infuriating given how much better we are than the Sharks by comparison. Then another great chance from Marchessault on a cross feed from Smith. Again, Reimer moved from his left to his right just fast enough to deny Marchessault, so clearly Reimer ate his Wheaties this morning, and the Golden Knights couldn't solve the Rubik's Cube that was James Reimer for the first little bit. And then Kolasar had a really good chance wide open in front of the net. Puck was definitely going to go in. It was absolutely going in until Luke Cunning came across to block it out of play with about 3 minutes to go. And then because we can't have anything good in the world, Paul Cotter takes a hooking penalty at 17:22, a really stupid penalty given the circumstances, especially because we had been such the better team throughout the entire period. Why would we, jackknife our chances for offense in the back half of the period? And then fortunately, there was a partial break for Eichel right on the start of the penalty kill that Erik Karlsson broke up. And then the majority of the chances were kept to the outside, and the Sharks weren't able to land a shot, but again, that's 2 minutes off the clock. Right coming out of the box, Paul Cotter had a partial breakaway, but again, Reimer was there. And it really was looking like the period was going to end calmly with 10 seconds to go. Eichel chips the puck across the line in the offensive zone across the ice to Stanley Stevenson, who passes it back to Theodore at the point. Theodore, for some reason, finds a seam through 4 stationary Sharks defenders, catches Eichel on the back door, and he one-times it past Reimer with 4 seconds to go in the period to give the Golden Knights a 1-0 lead. Eichel definitely found a soft spot. I don't even know how. He just stuck with the play, and good pass by Theodore, and ultimately good vision. Eichel's 10th of the year from Theodore and Stevenson at 1956. That is Eichel's 400th point of his career, and also the latest goal the Golden Knights have scored in any period this season. So a lot of positive coming out of the first period. As the horn ends, the first period, come out of it with a 1-0 lead. It's the first time in the last 7 games we haven't allowed a goal in the first period, so that's positive. We outshot San Jose 10-6. That's positive. We had 13 hits and 7 blocks. That's good. 50-50 from the dot. That's okay. It was an interesting period, and nothing really happened until something happened. It was a lot of neutral zone transition hockey where it was just messy, but whenever there were chances, and they were all pretty high chance for both sides. It ended on a positive note with the Eichel goal, so we definitely have to try and build upon that going into the second. So we go into the second period, and it's very clear that the San Jose Sharks have come out with a little bit more heat, a little bit more pep in their step, and ultimately that results in a very early power play for the Sharks very early power play for the Golden Knights, on them trying to keep up and try and push the pressure. Quick turnover leads to a holding penalty from Tomas Hertl at 3:03. First wave of the power play, a really good passing chance, but there wasn't really much going on in terms of offensive shooting, which should be expected from the first power play, that they either look amazing or they look terrible, and in this case, they looked pretty bad. The second wave was somehow less effective. They never really got established in the zone, and ultimately it was 2 minutes off the clock and a bit of a momentum killer, if I'm going to be entirely honest. And unfortunately, the inability to capitalize on our power play opportunity would come back to bite the Golden Knights just a few minutes after the end of the power play, as Luke Cunnin would tie the game for the San Jose Sharks at 1-1. It was a really unfortunate break. Just a rogue point shot from Erik Karlsson was gobbled up in front of the net by the form of an Alec Martinez block, as he has done so often. But instead of the puck bouncing harmlessly to the corner or harmlessly down to his feet, it kicked across the ice to Cunnin on the off wing, who was completely wide open and ultimately was able to fire it past Logan Thompson, sneaking it just through him. It was just a total luck play, following a bit of an interesting non-call in the neutral zone. Marchessault definitely got either interfered with or high-sticked on a break-in about 30 seconds prior to this Sharks goal, so do with that information what you will. Regardless of what happened, it was a very unfortunate break. The bounce probably shouldn't have gone there, and ultimately there's nothing anyone can do about it anyway. It was Cunnin's third of the year from Karlsson and Sturm at 8:05. Pretty shortly after the goal, about 4 minutes after the Sharks tied it up, the Golden Knights really try and push the pace a little bit, and ultimately they really start picking it up. There was a good 2-on-1 with Eichel, really good 2-on-1 that was essentially Eichel and Stevenson blowing past a sprawled out Erik Karlsson. It was a really good save by Reimer, and at that point it was the best chance of the period. But fortunately, that wouldn't be the best chance of the period as a whole, as just a few minutes after that, Jonathan Marchessault put the Golden Knights ahead 2-1 with a really, really good shot from just inside the zone, just above the left circle over Reimer. It was really a 2-on-1 for all intents and purposes with Marchessault and Karlsson. As Ferraro kind of laid down to take away the passing lane, it really turned into a shooting contest between Marchessault and Reimer. He essentially walked down the left wing and called his own number instead of trying to force the pass to Karlsson, where he probably would have scored for sure, but the pass probably wouldn't have gotten through. And ultimately, he went post-in short side behind Reimer over the glove. That's his 7th of the year from Pietrangelo at 15:53. That's his first goal in a hot minute, so he definitely needed it. He definitely needed it just to get on the board and get his touch for scoring back. And ultimately, a 2-1 lead is pretty good. That's basically the last thing that happened. The real last offensive flourish that happened was a good look from Pietrangelo and a late rush feed from Marchessault, better save, and that was in the last minute of the second period. Ultimately, the second period was another interesting period. While we're the only team while we were able to regain the lead, we by no means were the better team. As we're being outshot, or we are currently outshooting the Sharks 20-18, but we were outshot in the period 12-9. We're up to 56% from the dot, 24 hits, 14 blocks. Not the best period for the Golden Knights, but they capitalized on the mistakes that we were given, especially the turnovers and the really good shot from Jonathan Marchessault. A lot of rust chances. Passing was cleaner in this period as a result, so that's kind of what's going to happen when you have the offense working is your passes are going to be a little bit cleaner, and ultimately it's a lead going into the third period. That's about all you can ask for, especially when you're at home. Now we have to talk about the not so fun part, which is the third period. So the Golden Knights were obviously off to a little bit of a sluggish start, as they hadn't even really gotten a minute into the period and they were already in a tie game in the form of Matt Nieto tying it up. It was a really, really bad turnover. Again, trying to exit the zone. Our breakouts have gone from elite to, honestly, historically kind of bad in the last 5 games, similar to the first inaugural season when, the breakouts were the one thing that were holding us back from winning the Stanley Cup, probably. And ultimately, it was just a failed clearing attempt and then a scramble around the net, managed to find its way past Logan Thompson. Nieto's second of the year from from Barabanov and Vlasic at 103. And that's a frustrating way to start the period, but it's still tied up, and the Golden Knights are going to have their opportunities to get a little bit more offense going, and it helps when the Sharks decide to go down a man in the form of a Megna hooking penalty at 5:34. First wave was pretty effective, but were unable to land a really good opportunity. The second wave was slightly less effective overall, not registering a shot. The first wave had one, so the power play had one total shot. Not a momentum killer, but not a momentum killer either. And it was illustrated by the fact that the Sharks almost took the lead just shortly following the Golden Knights power play concluding on a really fluky bounce off of like a stanchion behind the boards on a save from Thompson. The puck kicked straight up, and instead of going to the corner, everyone thought it landed like to Logan Thompson's right. Sharks player kicked it out to LeBanc, who was coming into the zone, and honestly, he just missed hitting the outside of the right post from the low slot. So Golden Knights dodged a bullet there, and that was with about 9 minutes to go in the period, 9 minutes to go in regulation. Shortly after that glorious opportunity for the Sharks, they were back down a man in the form of a Sturm high sticking penalty at 14:10. Unfortunately, I can't say anything good about this power play. They barely accomplished anything in offense. If anything, it was a momentum-killing power play. And, both waves were completely disoriented. I'm pretty sure we spent 15 total seconds in the offensive zone over the course of this power play. And so that's really just not good if you're Bruce Cassidy. That's not good if you're the Golden Knights. And what made it very, very, very not good is that immediately after the end of the power play, the Golden Knights go down a man in the form of a Smith tripping penalty. It was a really stupid penalty that did not need to be taken, and the momentum had shifted entirely from our bad power play. Now the Sharks are up a man, and ultimately, by the end of the 2 minutes, they'd be up a goal in the form of a Timo Meier goal. Took advantage of another massive defensive breakdown in the slot. Meier was able to walk all the way down on Thompson and find his way to just rip it past him. He just beat Logan Thompson to the spot. Meier's 8th of the year from Couture and Barabanov at 17-12. So you're the Golden Knights. This is your second game in a row where you've had a 2-1 lead, and now you find yourself down. Same kind of thing happened to the Blues, just you forget how to play for a couple of minutes. I mean, in this case, the goals didn't come all at once like they did against St. Louis in the span of 40 seconds. They came throughout this third period, but just, again, very frustrating. But there's still time. There's still about 2.5 minutes, and the Golden Knights pull Logan Thompson the second they got offensive zone time, and as soon as Thompson's to the bench, they immediately turn the puck over, and Logan Couture nets the empty netter to put the Sharks ahead 4-2. So at that point, the game's over. But, there's still a good chunk of time, so the Golden Knights win the next face-off, try and get the established into the zone, bring Logan Thompson to the bench, get a little bit of zone time, immediately turn it over to Ferraro, and he pots an empty netter, making it 5-2, which is our final. So when looking at the numbers for this game, there's not a lot of great. We were outshot 29-26 and 11-6 in the third period, 56% from the dot, 0 for 3 on the power play, 27 hits, 23 blocks. This is the Golden Knights' most lopsided loss of the year. This is the first time that they've lost a game all year that wasn't by a single goal. They had a 3-2 loss, like a 4-3 loss, and a 3-2 loss, and now they've got this 5-2 loss hanging on their record. It's their first losing streak of the year. This is the first time they've lost consecutive games all year, and that's really kind of frustrating. Now the record of 13-4. That's not bad. I'm really splitting hairs here, but the Pacific Division's pretty good, and you want to bank points when you can, especially against a team like the San Jose Sharks, who, for all intents and purposes, we have absolutely dominated over the last 6 years. I guess the Sharks now have won 2 consecutive games in T-Mobile Arena, one at the back end of last year in overtime, and now this one in regulation. And what was supposed to be a good bounce-back game for the Golden Knights is turning into a bit of a black eye on their record. You go on this long road trip, you beat teams that are very good. You beat Washington, you beat Toronto, on your previous homestand, you've beat a lot of good teams, and now you got to come back and play the Sharks and the Blues to kick off a homestand. They had won one game in a month, and the Sharks have been kind of struggling all season. Now, unfortunately, I'm worried about the game against Arizona, the next one up, because, the Arizona Coyotes are a real hockey team. I figured we had a better chance of beating San Jose than we did Arizona, but who knows? Who knows at this point? It's a frustrating loss. The Golden Knights are a better team than this, and it's kind of irritating that that's the second game in a row they've had a 2-1 lead and haven't been able to even come remotely close to winning. whether it be due to defensive structures. I guarantee you Bruce Cassidy has blown a gasket or 7 over the defensive structure of his team over the last couple of weeks, because it's kind of been getting progressively worse, and that's ultimately resulted in the last 2 losses, whether it be the turnovers against St. Louis or the really, really bad turnovers against the Sharks. That's 4 points off the boards that very realistically should have and probably could have been wins. And so instead of being 15-2, the Golden Knights are 13-4. You know, it happens. It's hockey. It's early, and I can't complain about their standing positions too much. But again, those are 4 points we might really desperately want at the end of the year. That being said, we've got the opportunity to go back out against the Coyotes next up and try and get those 2 points, get back on the winning ways, especially before you go out on the road and go through Canada playing Edmonton and Vancouver before coming back home to play some pretty fun games over the Thanksgiving holiday. That being said, if you enjoy my ramblings, thanks for watching. Like it if you really enjoyed it. Subscribe down below if you really liked it. I try and do this all the time, and I am now finally caught up on recording. Only took 2 weeks, basically. Thanks again, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.